Alright. You and I are starting with a guy who wanted just one thing if he got reborn: a healthy body to finally make something of himself. And guess what? He actually got reincarnated with a perfectly healthy, functional body. Sporting striking white hair, he soon finds himself at a massive academy gathering packed with countless people. A blonde guy demands the fighters unleash their true power, while our reborn hero stands right beside him, quietly observing the chaos. He knew that fusing a strong body with flawless combat theory would let him predict any battle's outcome. Finally, he could chase his ultimate dreams. But during a fight, one simple move unleashes a terrifyingly different energy. Whispers spread that he is carrying a curse. A girl screams, begging our hero Lewis not to let the curse win. But honestly, even he does not understand what just happened, leaving him to wonder, would he lose to fate all over again? People mocked him, telling him to quit and calling him weak, trying to define his destiny. But Lewis does not care about their petty labels. Now watch closely, he is determined to shatter his destiny. As the scene rewinds to where it all began, we go back to the year 594 of the Holy Calendar at Candria Arcane Academy, where young Lewis arrives, completely blown away. He expected greatness from the Empire's premier magic training school, but the sheer number of hopeful candidates is absolutely insane. Suddenly, 13-year-old Louis Carroll hears someone calling his name and turns toward the voice. A young girl dressed as a nun is running up, begging him not to leave her behind. A nerdy boy nearby comments on how fast Lewis is. The nun catches up, quickly asking if he brought his official identification. She warns him to stay alert. Absolutely nobody can find out his real hair color. This woman is actually Louis's mother, and he reassures her that he has hair dye ready. Still, she hates that he has to hide himself. She heard rumors of candidates dying, worrying someone might target her son because of his unique hair and eyes. The nerdy boy gently reminds her that mastering magic is the only way to cure the boy's condition. His mother, Latiella, knows this is the single academy in the Empire, letting poor kids like Lewis take the entrance exam. Because of this rare chance, Candria Academy is highly respected by everyone. Directly founded by the royal family of Candria, it is one of the 10 legendary academies, a magic training school where the Empire's top grandmasters teach. Over the last 10 years, many commoner guardians arose, and almost all of them graduated from this prestigious school. So, our nerdy friend believes it is the ultimate place for young Louis to study magic. At that point, Louis tells his mother that Julian is right. He wants to become a powerful grandmaster so he can buy back and protect their church orphanage. Latiella is stunned by his massive ambition. She had no idea her little boy had grown so dependable. She feels guilty for not being able to cure him, making him worry about the institution, which makes her feel like a completely terrible mother. However, Julian quickly praises her, pointing out how she lovingly raises so many orphans alone. But Lewis makes it clear that he owes his life to her and is incredibly grateful for everything she does. See, in his past life, he dreamed of becoming the world's absolute greatest fighter, but severe asthma left him tied to a breathing machine. His own parents even hated him, calling him a useless financial drain. Even with his failing health, his passion for martial arts never faded. He researched constantly, and that obsession eventually paid off. He became a top martial arts theory scholar. His revolutionary work contributed heavily to the combat industry and sparked a massive renaissance in martial arts. But here is the absolutely crazy part. A corrupt scholar stole his life's work, framed our hero, and shamelessly took all the glory. Betrayed and abandoned by his own parents, he desperately wanted to live longer, wishing for a healthy body next time around. He also craved a family that would truly love him and a real life to call his own. And so, in the year 90 of the Holy Calendar, in the northern city of Montia, Latiella discovers a mysterious baby boy. She immediately wants to take him in, but others warn against it because of his white hair. Meanwhile, our reincarnated hero is completely lost. He just woke up as an infant and cannot process anything, since he should be dead. As Latiella holds him, people warn that this strange baby will bring ruin to their orphanage, but she completely disagrees. Knowing the baby is innocent, she refuses to abandon him, gently naming him Lewis Carroll right then and there. And that is how we leave him with a loving family, and the nerdy Julian as his dad. Pretty wild, right? Let's dive into the story of Lewis Carroll, who finally has a healthy body. But just as he's about to take the Cadrian Academy entrance exam, some trash shoves his mother and insults her. Latiella hit the dirt hard, dropping like a piece of ripe fruit. These arrogant nobles wanted to prove that a commoner reaching the Grandmaster rank was nothing but a joke. Lewis glared at them with pure, demonic rage. But one thug just kept mocking his family, acting all high and mighty. Disgusted, he even brushed against a dirty commoner, hoping it would not ruin his luck. Hearing all that garbage, Lewis crouched low, like a wild beast, his entire body trembling with pure fury. But before he could make a reckless move and throw his day away, his father, Julian, grabbed his arm, warning him to stay focused on the exam. He was right. Liella quietly reminded him of his promise to keep his head down at the academy. Lewis took a deep breath, apologized, and let his anger cool. The bullies called Julian a party pooper, mocking Lewis for needing luck to survive, before walking off. A moment later, the crowd started shouting for everyone to move because Lord Cain was approaching. People gasped at the sight of high nobility. Cain was the ultimate golden boy, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. With blonde hair, blue eyes, and endless wealth, he practically radiated the absolute power of the legendary Ianca family heir. Lewis just watched him, quietly wondering how he would deal with these arrogant nobles. Pay attention here. Liella notices her son's terrifying expression and instantly starts to panic. But Louis quickly calmed her down, promising everything was under control. He confidently assured her he would destroy this exam and climb all the way to Grandmaster. Those words caught Cain's ear as the boy proudly promised his own mother he would master magic. The nearby nobles sneered at them with total disgust. Ultimately, Louis wanted to reach the absolute peak in this life and shield those he loved, but Laciella could not stop worrying about his safety. Julian tried to ease her mind, but with 20,000 candidates competing for only 30 slots, she remained incredibly anxious. All she wanted was her son's safety. Julian knew Lewis was incredibly stubborn. Once he set his sights on a goal, nothing in this world could change his mind. As his family, they had to back him up, and Ladiella agreed, completely. Arriving at the exam hall, Lewis found himself surrounded by much older candidates. Suddenly, a powerful mage descended from the sky, hovering above them. This was the 160th entrance exam of the Candria Arcane Academy. Let's watch closely as the chief examiner steps forward. His name was Aronian Smith, the legendary director of the institution. The crowd gasped, seeing a grandmaster in the flesh. Lewis silently analyzed the situation. In this world, martial arcanists blended combat with magic, and they were ranked across 6 distinct levels: apprentice, fighter, master, grandmaster, sage, and grand sage. The grandmaster rank was the elite 3rd tier, basically a supreme class. Aronian then declared that the first test was scaling the stairs guarded by senior academy students. The actual exam passes lay right behind these veterans. With only 1,000 passes available, only those who grabbed one could move on. Once the final pass was snatched up, the test would instantly end. With that brief explanation, Aronian declared that the first phase was officially starting. Immediately, absolute chaos erupted as foolish candidates charged the veterans, thinking this would be a walk in the park. But one senior simply smirked, unleashing a crushing pressure while mockingly welcoming the desperate candidates directly to their own personal hell. Instantly, dozens of candidates collapsed, foaming at the mouth and proving this test was anything but simple. Dozens of hopefuls were instantly disqualified, leaving the rest absolutely terrified of this bizarre, unseen attack. A few recognized that ruthless veteran. His name was Sheath, the wealthy son of the Empire's finance minister. Lewis sensed a sharp wave of bloodlust from Sheath, while the surrounding examinees warily backed away from Lewis too. The silver-haired prodigy calmly walked past the trembling crowd, muttering that this was not even a real attack. He explained that Sheath had merely released his aura to scare them, and anyone who fainted from simple intimidation was just a pathetic weakling who did not deserve to win. Lewis's eyes burned with determination. Sheath grinned, rather impressed by the boy's composure and realizing he might actually be interesting. Even so, he reminded him that this place was packed with elite geniuses, leaving zero room for filthy commoners. To drive his point home, Sheath intentionally flared his crushing aura again to suppress the remaining applicants. And trust me, as the others drooled and choked, Lewis stood completely unfazed, proving he was not on their level. Trust me, you and I are about to watch Lewis mock Sheath, wondering if that weak aura was his best. Sure, it might scare regular civilians, but a highly trained fighter like Lewis is on a totally different level. Thinking back to the deadly beasts he had conquered, he smiled, knowing this rookie pressure trick would never work. With a smirk, he lunged straight at the veteran to show these nobles what real bloodlust actually feels like. His sheer boldness catches everyone off guard, and Sheath freezes as a fist stops inches from his face. The veteran cannot hide his genuine terror, sending shocked whispers instantly rippling across the entire crowd. After all, it is not every day a 13-year-old boy shrugs off a master's pressure and threatens to drop him without magic. Lewis looks at the stunned, silent veteran and casually tells him that he is taking the pass. He grabs a token, but a furious Sheath launches a cowardly sneak attack from behind, though Lewis is far too sharp. He blocks the strike instantly, leaving the veteran utterly shocked that a commoner could stop his blade so easily. Now pay attention to this exact moment. Aronian suddenly appears, stopping Sheath and declaring that Lewis has officially passed. The bitter examiner refuses to accept the result due to class status, but the director sees things differently. He reminds everyone that Candria Academy treats all candidates equally, completely ignoring whether you are common, born, or high nobility. In his eyes, everyone is just human. Realizing the director is right, Lewis bows and politely thanks him. Aronian offers his congratulations, but his eyes quickly linger on Lewis's unusual hair color, noticing something deeply concerning. Recognizing those eyes, the director asks a question, but Lewis nervously plays dumb. Leaning in, Aronian whispers that, if the boy passes, he will personally provide a rare magic potion to hide those unique physical traits. A potion crafted only for special people. Though the silver-haired kid is wary of the master's true motives, his resolve to pass this test never wavers. With his sights set on the second stage, he calmly walks away, leaving an utterly humiliated examiner glaring daggers at his back. The examiner is left seething, realizing this is the first time the director has ever stepped in just to protect a low-born brat. Grimacing in anger, he swears to remember that annoying name. Soon after, the scene shifts to the Academy's massive training grounds as the next stage gets underway. From 20,000 hopefuls, only 1,000 remain. Almost all of them are highly trained, high-born elites, leaving virtually zero commoners in sight. Just then, the arrogant noble who previously assaulted our hero's mother shoves past him, bumping his shoulder while sneering that no director will save a pathetic wretch like him next time. We both know this petty, offended, noble is begging for trouble. Lewis just stares back calmly, but another loudmouth highborn steps up, pointing a finger directly in his face, claiming he only survived because of the director's pity. To Lewis, this entire crowd of weaklings is nothing but a joke. Predictably, this spoiled brat does not handle being mocked very well. Lewis fires back, telling them a grandmaster has actual vision, unlike petty nobles, prompting the guy to threaten him with violence. The boy just smirks, sending him into an absolute rage. Losing his mind, the noble throws a wild punch, fully expecting to easily put this kid in his place. But with legendary speed, Lewis raises just 2 fingers, catching the fist effortlessly. A physical shockwave ripples through them, leaving the attacker paralyzed in pure, unadulterated terror. He just unleashed his deadly martial arts, the legendary spiral point strike. With an explosion of force, the noble is sent flying backward, crashing hard into the dirt several meters away, while his friends watch in absolute disbelief. The loud crash draws eyes from across the entire academy grounds. The defeated bully tries to get up but fails miserably, his legs shaking as a worried friend rushes to help him. Panicking, he screams that he can no longer feel his arm, which is trembling uncontrollably and completely locked in place. He instantly yells that our hero used illegal poison, but Lewis calmly tells the fool it has nothing to do with poison. This is pure martial arts. He only held back because his mother begged him to keep the peace. However, patience has its limits. If you throw a punch at someone, you better be damn sure you are ready to take one back. Just before Lewis can turn this garbage noble into paste, Kane steps in to stop him. Grabbing his arm, Kane reminds him they are currently taking a critical exam, asking if he is alright while warning that fighting will get him disqualified. And that is where we leave it. Our hero finally calms down. Get ready, because we're about to see how this badass deals with arrogant nobles. They mocked him, claiming a pretty boy had to protect the girls. But Kane snapped, demanding if these useless snobs even knew who he was before ordering them to back off. Terrified by his anger, the cowards instantly ran. The noble, beaten by Lewis, seethed, cursing both filthy commoners and useless aristocrats as utter garbage. He swore he'd get revenge, while Lewis watched from afar, disgusted by how elites abused their power. To him, every single noble was exactly the same. Then Kane approached the silver-haired boy, praising Lewis's courage and strength. It turned out Kane was actually a decent noble. He wanted to team up with Lewis. Hearing this, 2 fangirls swooned, thrilled that this handsome elite was forming a squad. Instantly, a massive crowd mobbed Kane, begging to join his group. He was completely swamped while Lewis watched the pathetic scene. Many thought teaming with Kane was an easy ticket to pass. But Lewis wasn't buying it, and he definitely didn't trust Kane either. Suddenly, a blinding flash engulfed the arena, and the director himself appeared out of nowhere. He congratulated the survivors of the first round, then announced the next stage would test their raw power. A strange mark glowed on everyone, sparking confusion until Kane guessed it belonged to the Earth attribute. Pay attention here, his body starts to shake, and he is definitely not the only one. Several candidates dropped straight to their knees. Director Aronian announced that this second exam would force them to fight under crushing gravity magic. Many candidates began to panic as the heavy magic crushed down. They couldn't comprehend how anyone could actually fight under this insane pressure. Suddenly, someone pointed at Lewis, screaming in shock because the silver-haired boy was walking totally normally. Kane was holding his ground too, his eyes wide with utter shock. Even though the intense magic forced his boots to sink deep into the solid stone, Lewis calmly strolled right onto the stage. Aronian noted that Lewis was the first to arrive yet again, reminding everyone of his spectacular performance in the first phase. Staring at Lewis, Kane fully understood the sheer gap in their strength. Kane realized Lewis was an absolute monster, especially since Kane had endured 3 years of brutal master-level training. Yet he could barely stand, leaving the others baffled by how Lewis was moving so easily. Aronian announced only survivors who stayed upright could continue, casting a spell to summon an entire massive arsenal of weapons. He told the candidates they could select whatever weapon suited them best. Lewis grabbed a sword, while Aronian warned that leaving the platform meant instant disqualification. The candidates trembled, barely keeping their grip on their gear, as Aronian officially kicked off the second exam. With a snap of his fingers, he unleashed the captured slimes before vanishing into thin air. You and I both know slimes are trouble, but these guys are clueless. As Lewis looks up, he saw gelatinous monsters falling from the sky, with one crashing down like a heavy piece of fruit. Only then did the panicked candidates realize what the director meant. They learned that blocking a slime earned 1 point, dodging gave them 2, and defeating one awarded 5 points. Rankings depended entirely on their total score, and only the top 100 would survive to advance, narrowing their chances even further. Lewis noted the 100 limit as slimes began bouncing around the arena like popcorn. Initially, the candidates assumed the slimes were easy prey, eagerly rushing in to attack them. Greedy for 5 points, one fighter charged, but the creature caught him off guard by lunging first, terrifying him. The monster smashed his face so hard it knocked out several teeth, and he certainly wasn't the only victim today. Anyone who underestimated these beasts paid dearly, and watching others get mangled left the remaining crowd terrified. Suddenly, a fresh wave of slimes rained down, causing mass panic as candidates dropped like flies. Up above, the director's examiners supervised the chaos and kept track of the points. One supervisor informed Director Aronian that with elite prodigies from the prestigious Oranka and Durahan families present, a historic new record was definitely possible. Another examiner remarked on the sheer number of candidates this season, including our favorite overpowered commoner, and trust me, we're in for a wild ride. Trust me, you and I are about to see if Aronian was right about this kid. But one supervisor noticed a major issue after grabbing his sword. Lewis stood there frozen. He literally did not budge, while a bunch of weak blue slimes humiliated the other candidates. The others could not comprehend why he was just standing there. Seeing the fast slimes, they assumed he just could not react in time. A commoner is just a commoner, right? At least, that is what they thought, expecting him to fail. Suddenly, a slime launched itself right at his face. Even with danger literally inches away, Lewis did not flinch at all. Then, at the absolute last second, he jerked his neck like a turtle, withdrawing into its shell, giving the slime just enough room to zoom past. Everyone watching was completely dumbfounded. Right after, the archer took a direct hit. The others could not believe Lewis had pulled off that crazy, last-second dodge. While slimes kept bouncing everywhere, Lewis analyzed their paths. Suddenly, 3 of them lunged right at him. Now watch this idiot. One candidate was actually rooting for Lewis to get wrecked, absolutely convinced the silver-haired kid could not possibly evade 3 at once. But he was dead wrong, as Lewis recalls a past memory. He was in a snowy wasteland with 3 other guys, asking them to pelt him with heavy stones. The guys hesitated, worried they would seriously hurt him because of how dangerous it was. But the silver-haired kid reassured them that it was completely fine since he was just running a test. Finally, they threw the stones, expecting him to dodge. With the rocks flying his way, Lewis locked his eyes on them. In his past life, he had built a theory. He trained his mind to send information instantly from his parietal lobe to his brain. By calculating the exact flight path of any attack, if his reaction was fast enough, he could counter literally anything. Just like that, he calculated and dodged every single stone. His friends stood there, completely blown away by him. He just sighed, knowing the experiment was still highly dangerous. They begged to know how he did it, asking if it was a new secret art. Lewis casually told them he calls it void combat calculation. The boys had zero clue what that meant, but Lewis knew any battle could be solved through raw calculation. Back in reality, As the slimes charged, he ran millions of formulas in his head, proving he is a complete genius, basically the Einstein of combat. Now, you and I both know slimes have speed, but they can only move in straight lines. By reading their exact angle and speed, he predicts their path. He finally made his move, showing everyone how ridiculously easy it was to dodge their strikes. 4 perfect dodges later, he bagged 8 points. And then it was his turn to attack. Unsheathing his blade, he sliced 3 slimes instantly with his sword cleave technique. Watching from the side, Kane could barely process what he saw. The second exam supervisors started suspecting that Liu was actively reading the movements of the slimes, showing off some insane perception. Kane grinned at Lewis, convinced he was looking at an elite combat master. His urge to partner up with Lewis skyrocketed. Right then, Lewis spotted another slime charging straight at him. 5 more easy points. He was ready to strike, but Kane suddenly used a sword-piercing technique, skewering the slime like a chicken heart on a hot grill. Lewis did not appreciate this blonde guy stealing his points. Kane denied stealing anything, pointing his blade at other rivals and claiming those points belonged to them instead. After introducing himself properly, he asked Lewis if they should start stealing points together. Kane explained that he wanted a top rank, and since they were both here, he wanted to compete directly to see who could rack up more points. He challenged Lewis to show his absolute limits, and seeing Kane's confidence, Lewis accepted. But with one condition: the loser has to do whatever the winner commands. He asked Kane if he was down. Since Kane started this, he accepted, and the duo began absolute havoc on the slimes. The other candidates groaned, especially those idiots who had picked fights with Lewis earlier. They were following Sheath's orders, but with Lewis and Kane tearing things up together, their job just became a complete nightmare. Suddenly, a single slime managed to slip past, prompting them to try and intercept it before it reached our duo. Lewis reacted instantly, slicing the slime in half, but he completely missed the incoming arrows flying behind it. He bumped into a totally confused Kane. That trash archer thought he actually landed a hit, but you and I know this silver-haired kid is built different. At the absolute last millisecond, Lewis caught all 3 arrows with his bare hands. Alright, let's jump right into this epic showdown, as one shocked lackey stands frozen, seeing arrows caught barehanded. Kane rushes over to check on Lewis. Pissed that those cowards are playing dirty, Lewis just shrugs it off like it is nothing. Hearing Kane call him garbage, the shameless archer gets furious, activates his double arrow skill, and shoots right at him. Kane knocks the attacks aside easily, but one arrow slips past his guard, and blood splatters. Lewis actually caught the blade of the arrow to protect Kane. Seeing the bloody state of his friend's hand, Kane completely panics. But Louis does not even flinch. He knows he was the real target all along. A supervisor spots the dirty trick and immediately asks Director Aronian if they should throw those cheating candidates out. Aronian says no. He believes those fools will lose anyway, so there is no point in stepping in. Instead, he tells his staff to prep healing potions, and they will deal with the aftermath once the exam ends. Now watch closely, because Lewis asks Kane if he knows baseball, then swings his sword to launch a slime flying like a home run. Grinning like a madman, he is loving this. He delivers a heavy swing right into the slime with massive force. The monster squeals in pain as it gets launched like a rocket straight at those 3 archers. Talk about instant karma for those trash. The coward who made Lewis bleed gets smashed so hard he flies meters backward, crashing out of bounds for an instant disqualification. He hits the dirt like a sack of potatoes, groaning and holding his chest where a massive bruise is forming. Seeing this, Kane finds this whole game highly entertaining. Right then, Louis takes off. The remaining archers are completely panicked about their teammate who just got blown away. Still, they are absolutely boiling with rage at what Louis did. Suddenly, one of them notices Lewis has completely vanished, caught totally off guard. Lewis is airborne, kicking a slime like a soccer ball right into the archer's face. The guy goes flying backwards and is instantly out of the exam. Now there is only one idiot archer left, and he is desperately clutching his target button. Louis teleports right behind him, whispering that he is the final survivor, though the garbage archer is already well aware. The arrogant noble demands the commoner step back, but Kane just sticks his foot out and trips the brat out of the boundary. Kane even gives the dummy a warning to watch his step next time. Afterward, Kane thanks Louis for the backup, but asks if his hand is alright. Lewis tells him it is totally fine. He admits Kane is actually a pretty decent guy, since usually, nobles are nothing but arrogant jerks. Kane objects to being grouped with them, asking if Louis knows of the great families, since he is a proud member of the Orana household. These legendary clans have produced generations of elite masters and powerful sages. Their sheer influence is massive, rivaling the royalty, the high nobility, and the arcane association itself. We both know there are actually some decent nobles out there, right? Meanwhile, the remaining candidates complain that some poor nobody is messing up their test, desperately wanting to stop Louis from scoring points. Suddenly, a mob starts screaming for commoners to get lost. They really just despise the poor. Some brown-nosers decide to suck up to Kane, offering help because they think he is the real target here, unlike Louis. Because of this, the battleground descends into absolute chaos, prompting Louis to warn Kane to stay on high alert. Kane promises he will not let his guard slip a second time. Elsewhere, a pink-haired girl thinks things are getting fun, standing alongside her blue-haired friend named Miliana. She dashes forward, yelling for Miliana to help her make those arrogant nobles regret looking down on them. Louis notices the crowd is actively blocking them, making points hard to get, just as a fresh wave of slime spawns. Miliana levels a rival candidate while her pink-haired buddy literally hurls several more out of bounds. Amid the madness, a red-haired beast holding a massive hammer stands watching the entire brawl unfold. He laughs like a lunatic, loving every second since crushing people is way more fun than hitting dumb slimes. Suddenly, he starts spinning his hammer like a giant top, going completely wild in the arena. He tears through the crowd, smashing candidates and launching a whole group of them out of bounds at once. The worried staff asks the director if they should halt the match, but Aronian laughs it off, saying some raw, youthful energy is good for the test. An assistant warns him that letting all the wealthy nobles get wiped out could cause massive issues for the academy later. But the director makes the rules, so trust me, you and I know he does not care about public opinion. Alright, you and I are jumping right back into the action just as the second exam is declared over. He stepped up to announce that the final scores and official rankings would be released very shortly. Instantly, a wave of relief washed over the crowd as the heavy earth magic suddenly dissipated into nothing. Aronian then instructed all the injured candidates to quickly drink the healing potions provided to restore their strength. Louis drank the potion, completely amazed at the incredible way this magic medicine actually worked. Growing up dirt poor, he could never afford to waste 3 silver coins on one. It was a luxury he couldn't touch. Kane asked what was wrong and promised to leave Louis alone if he won. Right on cue, Aronian finally revealed the second exam rankings. A few arrogant nobles laughed instantly, realizing they couldn't find Louis's name anywhere on the board. The commoner was getting under their skin. But then, the director announced that the top 5 candidates had shattered all previous records. 5th place belonged to Miliana Royce, while 4th place was secured by Kane Ora. Miliana's close friend, Fejurahan, took 3rd, but Kane didn't even notice. Being completely deaf, he missed his name and assumed he had been disqualified because of those annoying snobs. Now pay close attention here. Aronian announces that 2nd place goes to Louis with 887 points. Kane was absolutely stunned. He immediately started badgering Louis about their bet, dying to know what kind of order the silver-haired kid would give him. However, the silver-haired boy calmly told him he would decide after the exams. 1st place went to Neil Gunn, the fiery hothead, who scored 888 points, exactly 1 point higher than Louis. He smirked, hoping this crowd wouldn't bore him, while the others gasped at the massive, towering frame of Neil. The guy was a literal beast. Miliana then turned to Faye, noticing that her friend was actually shaking with excitement. Faye quietly admitted she was dying to have a real battle with Louis. Meanwhile, Sheath was absolutely furious. The useless lackeys who followed his orders had lost to a commoner, bruising his fragile noble pride. He pointed a finger at his defeated men, calling them an absolute disgrace to nobility before starting his lecture. Soon after, a shocked assistant told her boss that having 2 commoners take 1st and 2nd was completely unheard of in academy history. To make things even wilder, both Neil and Louis had grown up in a local orphanage. Aronian reminded her that the association funded orphanages for a reason. True power doesn't care about your social class. With that, he commanded all the passing candidates to move forward to the next testing ground. I know what you're thinking. Who's actually stronger between Louis and Neil? Well, even Louis doesn't have the answer to that yet. The scene then cuts to the 3rd training area of the Candria Arcane Academy. This final test was a brutal survival exam, a battle royale where emblems were everything. Every candidate would receive an emblem before being randomly teleported into the depths of a dense forest by the veteran mages. It was total chaos, and the only goal was to steal as many emblems as possible. No rules, any method goes. But if you lose your own emblem, you're instantly disqualified. Only the top 10 emblem collectors would pass. Kane quickly warned Louis that they should split up for now. He knew they would both be prime targets, urging Louis to be careful. Louis promised to do whatever it took. Louis figured that placing 2nd was a setup designed by the director to put a giant target on his back. The Academy wanted everyone to unleash their absolute limits just to survive this final battle. Walking deep into the woods, Lewis realized he was just one step away from admission. He didn't care about the risks. Suddenly, a furious candidate carrying a massive axe blocked his path, eager to crush the commoner, who dared humiliate the nobility. But in reality, Lewis was just giving them some well-deserved payback. And just like the director said, true strength doesn't care about status. To make matters worse, two more ambushers quickly joined the big axe wielder. They laughed, assuming this commoner would be easy pickings now that his noble protector wasn't around. As if Lewis ever needed a bodyguard. On top of that, an archer was hiding up in the trees. Lewis realized the teleportation team must have leaked his exact coordinates. This was a setup. The axe wielder wasted no more time and charged forward with a devastating strike. His blow tore up the ground, but Lewis dodged effortlessly, prompting a spearman to lunge forward and seal his escape route. He leaps back, barely dodging the strikes, and that's where we leave it, with Louis caught completely off guard. All right, you and I are diving in as some weird energy blasts him from above, which he blindly shatters with his sword. The big guy with the axe promises that Lewis is dead meat right here, but Lewis effortlessly slips past a whole group of attackers, only to spot that same mysterious magic flying at him again. He blocks the blast, but a spearman immediately lunges, warning him that deadly wind arrows are locked onto him next. Watching him struggle, the spearman realizes Louis is just a commoner who cannot use magic. But Lewis keeps dodging, driving the guy absolutely insane. Honestly, Lewis hates this. He has no way to predict magical trajectories, so he decides to unleash a counter technique called Send No Sin, striking them before they can even launch an attack. Essentially, he is going to turn their own power against them. Meanwhile, the trainees prepare to rush him all at once. Now watch closely, because Lewis knows this is the perfect setup. The heavy axe guy thinks he has a clear hit, but Lewis slips away, disarms him, and sends that massive weapon flying straight into another fighter's eye. Talk about a brutal accident. Without missing a beat, Louis damages a spearman's attack. But right then, the archer releases a shot. Lewis yanks the spear away from his opponent, leaving the poor guy to take the arrow instead. Lewis grabs the stolen spear, locks eyes with the sniper, and hurls it with insane force. Just like that, he completely wipes out the squad and takes their emblems. One beaten noble fumes, screaming that they need to blast Louis with maximum magic. Kane just laughs it off because there is absolutely zero chance of that happening. Holding a crossbow, he watches as another body suddenly drops from the trees. Kane smirks from the branches, revealing he is the one who sniped the guy. Honestly, it is sad how useless these opponents are now. The survivors are baffled because Kane was supposed to be completely tied up by their allies. But Kane reveals he already forced their buddies to spill the entire plan, proving he is way too smart for these idiots. Their fatal mistake was underestimating his family, sending the noble into a total rage. Seriously, the guy looks like he is about to pop a blood vessel from screaming. Annoyed by the noise, Kane just chucks his crossbow straight at his face. Jumping down, he meets up with Louis, who is relieved he is okay. Kane explains those guys were just bottom-tier nobility. They only know textbook spells and have zero actual combat skills. No real threat here. He tosses Lewis one of the stolen emblems, warning him that the attacks will only keep coming if he stays alone, so Kane offers to team up. But Lewis declines, wanting to earn every single emblem with his own hands. Right then, Faye steps out, clapping like she just witnessed the ultimate show of the day. She gets straight to the point, announcing that Lewis is exactly who she wanted to find. She wants a duel. Kane recognizes her immediately, whispering to Louis that she is a Grandmaster's daughter. Louis asks if she is Kane's friend, or if they have clashed before. Kane looks incredibly awkward, quickly making it clear that the muscular girl is definitely not his friend. Still, he admits they have fought, claiming he only lost because he let his guard down like an idiot. Faye tells them to stop whispering like total cowards, demanding to know why two powerful guys like them are not turning on each other instead. Kane whispers a quick warning, revealing that Faye can actually cast spells and is easily at apprentice rank. Basically, it is smarter for Louis to just ignore her and keep farming emblems. Faye is not having any of that, calling them cowards who are just trying to run away. Lewis points his blade right at her, wanting to test the might of a legendary family. Faye gets hyped, claiming she will not even use magic. She instantly charges straight at him. He focuses intensely as she thrusts her spear with wild power, but he miraculously pins the weapon under his arm. Even she is impressed by his insane reflexes. Suddenly, a hidden blade shoots out from her spear, forcing Lewis to let go and jump back. Fa keeps pressing, slamming her spear into the dirt and leaving a massive crater. Watching from above, the proctors are stunned. They praise the martial arts of the legendary Durahan family, noting Fa's terrifying speed and flawless form. But Lewis is the real shocker, a mere commoner holding his own against a high-tier prodigy like her. She has top-tier training resources he could only dream of, making the gap between them look absolutely massive. The teachers are convinced Louis will collapse soon. The headmaster is watching too, and one of them asks who he thinks will walk away victorious. Aronian admits he is rooting for Lewis. But realistically, the kid cannot beat someone like Faye. But why is he so sure? You and I will find out next time. Alright, you and I are diving into a clash of body and will as the dust begins to rise. Suddenly, Faye bursts from the dust cloud, eyes bloodshot and raging, desperately trying to land a hit on Lewis. But he casually dodges every single strike, making her absolutely furious. And right then, Lewis spots a massive opening in her guard. Slipping past her lightning-fast strikes, he leaps back. Faye is utterly shocked, unable to comprehend how he dodged everything when someone like Cain failed to do so. Lewis just calmly tells her that it really is not that hard. He explains she just needs to pay closer attention. Annoyed, Faye switches tactics to a technique called crescent. Lewis recognizes it immediately. Knowing spear combat relies on core motions like thrusting, sweeping, defending, and suppressing. Its long reach makes it incredibly troublesome to deal with, but he knows it still has some major fatal flaws. As Faye starts spinning her weapon, Lewis notes that one giant weakness of a spear is its vulnerability at close range. Basically, if he times his move perfectly and closes the gap instantly, he can launch an easy counter. To do this, he unleashes his sword dance technique. Now pay attention here. Faye claims his tricks are useless, spinning so fast that even Lewis is left completely baffled by her speed. She boasts that the legendary Durahan family spear art has no flaws, telling him to get ready. She is practically whipping up a localized tornado. Watching this, the supervisor notes her genius is undeniable. Her whole household is gifted, yet they still respect Lewis for pushing past his limits like this. Lewis keeps holding his ground, well aware that heavy spear techniques drain a massive amount of stamina. He focuses entirely on blocking with surgical precision, waiting for the exact moment her guard drops. When Faye finally slows down, Lewis lunges forward to strike with all his might, but suddenly, his sword shatters to pieces. She is shocked, realizing that if his weapon had not broken, he would have successfully hit her. Louis laments his absolutely rotten luck. Meanwhile, Faye starts thinking he is holding back on purpose, which makes her furious. But that is just how Louis fights. He prefers to analyze his opponent before unleashing his full power. Either way, he announces he is getting serious now. Faye is totally confused, since his sword is broken. That is when Lewis reveals that he is actually far deadlier with bare fists. Immediately, the clash restarts. Wasting no time, Faye activates another high-tier technique and rushes straight at Lewis. Watching from the sidelines, Cain warns Louis about her deadly spinning charge technique, yelling that a direct hit would be devastating. But then, Lewis weaves his hands through the air, his energy tangling with her spear, leaving Cain speechless. Faye is utterly baffled because what he is doing should be impossible. You and I both know, barehanded defense is insane, and even the supervisors cannot wrap their heads around what he did. As the director ponders this, Faye refuses to back down. She kicks her spear back into her hands, declaring she has one more trick left. Holding the spear behind her back, she bursts forward with absolutely blinding speed. She drives the spear forward, but Lewis repeats his strange hand movements and effortlessly deflects her, leaving her completely dazed. The Academy director notes that Lewis stopped the rotation using an unprecedented defensive style. Realizing this silver-haired boy is truly extraordinary. A shocked subordinate cannot believe a commoner is successfully countering the legendary Durahan family arts. Faye is sent flying back several meters by his defense. Deeply shaken, she demands to know what kind of bizarre martial art he is actually using. Lewis explains, it is a unique defensive style, where he syncs with the spear's rotation to completely neutralize its energy. The explanation flies right over her head, but Lewis is eager to show her more, as he closes in before she can even recover. He easily slips past every frantic strike she throws his way. He has bypassed her spear range entirely, making Cain wonder if he is witnessing some insane optical illusion. The clash between Lewis and Faye flows smoothly, just like a butterfly. Faye completely loses her cool, seeing her opponent right in front of her, but unable to land a single hit. He is using the butterfly step, an elegant footwork style of rapid back-and-forth movements created by a legendary boxer. This light, unpredictable rhythm makes it impossible to track, giving Lewis the perfect opening to send Faye flying with a heavy blow. Cain is totally speechless, watching Faye get thrown around like a rag doll by Lewis. The director admits this is unbelievable, and trust me, you and I are going to want to see how she responds next. Alright, you and I are about to watch the supervisors realize Lewis is a close combat genius, but Faye says it is not over. She is showing everyone just how tough she really is. Born from an elite noble lineage, she will not go down without a brutal fight. Lewis quickly notices that she has completely abandoned her spear. He figures she is shifting to fist techniques now. Faye goes completely wild, unleashing a flurry of punches while Lewis dodges at lightning speed. She throws a devastating strike. He barely manages to block it, but the shocking force is enough to seriously injure his hand. Still, he compliments her skills, while Faye reminds him the Durahan family is famous for more than just spear play. She displays yet another fist style, while Lewis sticks to his classic, high-speed boxing moves. The showdown reaches a boiling point. Honestly, he is absolutely thrilled to go all out against someone this strong. This is the exact kind of battle he has always dreamed of. He craves even more as his heart starts pounding insanely fast. Right then, the look in his eyes shifts. He leaps forward to test her reactions. Pay attention here. Faye is completely lost because Lewis feels totally different now. It is like looking at a demon heading straight for her. Frozen in place, she can only raise her guard. But his blow is so ridiculously powerful, it sends her flying, spitting up blood. The director is left utterly stunned. Faye crashes violently into a tree before collapsing onto the dirt. Other candidates watch in absolute horror as a commoner overpowers Faye. Suddenly, a guy named Brian starts feeling physically ill. Panicking, he suddenly vomits on the spot, with no clue what is happening to him. He mutters to his friend that he feels terrible. That crushing pressure is coming directly from Lewis, who is now a real threat to these nobles. They realize they must eliminate him at all costs. With an aura like that, if the rumors are true, they cannot let him leave this place alive. Lewis slowly closes in on Faye. She is terrified, bleeding, and heavily wounded. Yet, he strikes her with everything he has, launching her backward once more as a massive spray of blood erupts from her mouth. Before she can even hit the ground, he pursues her mid-air, ready to land another strike. He rains down a barrage of heavy blows. Faye immediately senses that his speed and power have leaped to a completely different tier. In this state, she realizes she stands absolutely zero chance of beating him. To make things worse, she genuinely believes he might end up ending her life right here. Desperate, she unleashes her arcane martial arts to counter his massive attack, hoping to somehow protect herself, but it is completely useless. She crashes through trees like a human wrecking ball. Now, let us pause here, because Lewis suddenly snaps right back to normal. Realizing what just happened, he stares at his own hand, and notices traces of lingering magic. Kane rushes over to check if Lewis is okay. Lewis is fine, but his immediate concern is how Faye is doing. Suddenly, Sheath appears to declare that Lewis lost his emblem and is officially disqualified. Just then, Louise sees the emblem floating away. The veteran demands that Louise leave right now, but Kane quickly steps up to defend his friend. He explains that the entire thing was just a freak accident, but Sheath cannot believe Kane is actually defending a lowly commoner. He confronts Lewis, telling him to get lost for ruining the exam, while calling him worthless trash that needs to be thrown out. But then, Faye yells out for everyone to wait, drawing all eyes to her. Lewis is shocked she is not completely broken after that beatdown. She can still walk. Sheath demands to know if she is defending Lewis, warning her that breaking the rules will get her disqualified too. But Faye, battered and bruised, has zero patience for this idiot's nonsense, and straight up tells him to shut his mouth. She knows Louis' emblem was burned to ashes, and she actually apologizes to Louisa. She explains that she accidentally used magic, leaving Kane completely speechless to see the proud Faye actually apologizing. But Lewis argues, admitting he went into a wild rage. Faye shrugs it off, saying since he forced her to use magic, he technically won. She says she hopes they can have a proper rematch once they both enter Kandria Academy. The veteran scoffs, saying enrollment is impossible since the kid only managed to collect 4 emblems. Just then, Faye pulls out her own emblem and hands it to Lewis as his reward. He now has 14 emblems wrapped safely in a cloth. Faye informs the examiner that since Lewis's emblem burned only after he defeated her, his victory is perfectly valid. Sheath is absolutely fuming at her logic. Meanwhile, the chaotic Faye suddenly slaps Kane on the shoulder, calling him handsome. He has absolutely no clue how to react. Faye turns her back, declaring she will not let weaklings pass the exam while the truly deserving candidates get left behind. She kicks her spear up, catching it mid-air as a reminder, and trust me, you and I are about to see if he survives when only 10 can pass. Alright, let us dive back in. She asks what happens if the 10th place has 14 emblems. Coincidentally, Kane was just thinking the exact same thing. Honestly, he never expected Faye to focus on anything besides mindless fighting. Faye gets pissed, realizing he just called her stupid. They both take off to grab more emblems, while Lewis watches them with a smirk. Suddenly, the supervisor appears right next to Lewis and Sheath, informing Lewis that he lost his emblem and is officially disqualified. The silver-haired man will now escort him out. Lewis just accepts his fate, but Sheath knows it is not over. His buddy Brian points out that if Faye crushes other candidates, Lewis still passes. Either way, Sheath never wants to look at Lewis again. He starts plotting. Would anyone actually care if a candidate met with a fatal accident during this exam? Brian loves the dark turn, hoping Sheath will not wimp out like the other candidates. Brian is still bugged by that weird vibe Lewis gave off, wondering who he really is. Shortly after, Lewis walks away with the supervisor. Our boy knows martial arts are great, but alone, they just cannot compete with pure magic. But if he can learn to fuse magic and martial arts at this academy, he will be completely unstoppable. Walking away, he grumbles about his ruined clothes, just as a mysterious hooded figure brushes past. Now, how on earth is he going to explain this mess to his mom? If he tells her the truth, she is going to panic and ask a million questions. Watch closely here. This hooded guy lunges from behind, but Lewis is too fast, kicking the weapon away and sending him flying back several meters. The assassin demands to know how he was spotted. Lewis casually responds that you can never truly wash away the stench of blood. The killer and his hidden allies find Lewis way too relaxed for a kid who is about to get slaughtered. Lewis senses these guys are pros. He will have to go all out to survive this clash, especially one figure lurking deep in the shadows of the trees. That guy is on a whole different level. The assassin snaps him back to reality, yelling that his head is rolling today. Lewis dodges every single strike, spots an opening, and slams him hard onto the dirt. But the guy is tough. He sweeps back up with a counterattack, though Lewis cleanly dodges the blow once again. Back on his feet, the killer realizes the intel was right. This kid has insane reflexes and top-tier fighting skills. Lewis is left completely puzzled by that comment. The attacker admits his close combat rival's a true apprentice, but wonders how he will handle a taste of magic. Right then, several snipers appear, launching magical projectiles his way. Lewis deflates the lethal arrows, which completely shred the surrounding trees and leave massive craters. You and I see wind arrows again, and Lewis is getting seriously annoyed. He activates his breathing technique, channeling internal energy to supercharge his muscles and physical strength. Unlocking his body's hidden potential, his speed and power explode. With laser focus, he launches himself straight at the enemies. The shooters keep spamming spells, thinking this kid is just struggling in a completely hopeless effort. But Lewis cleanly dodges every single blast. That is when the crossbowmen realize he is terrifyingly fast. In a flash, he vanishes from sight, leaping up to snatch one of their weapons. With a swift kick, he sends one flyer. The remaining archers fire wildly, while their leader screams orders to stop Lewis at all costs. Suddenly, another assassin drops from above, aiming a heavy kick at Lewis. Lewis guards the strike, but the massive force rattles his bones. This giant is on an entirely different level of strength. Though hooded like the rest, this absolute beast is way taller and incredibly muscular. Lewis keeps dodging the endless barrage of fire until, seemingly exhausted, he collapses to the ground. The archers pant in relief, glad the silver-haired brat finally dropped. They are completely worn out from firing constantly. One of them realizes Lewis is no ordinary commoner. He is way more dangerous than any apprentice. Suddenly, Lewis reacts. He springs up instantly, grabs the guy's crossbow, shoves it down, and strikes him right in the throat. Using raw finger strength, he nearly crushes the man's neck bone, leaving him bleeding out instantly. Using the body as a shield, he fires back at the remaining assassins, but the huge leader deflects the bolts effortlessly. He knew Lewis was just playing dead, weakened but still ready for a brutal fight. The giant claps his hands, thoroughly impressed by what this kid can do. And remember, Lewis is only 13. Trust me, you and I can see this giant does not care that his men just died. Get ready, because you and I are about to see a clash where Lewis charges straight ahead, but his enemy dodges effortlessly. He mocks Lewis for being clever, admitting that if he hadn't received strict orders from a secret master to end him, he would have loved to take the boy as a disciple. Instead, he conjures a terrifying dark hammer, striking Louis and sending him flying high into the air. But this villain is insanely fast, effortlessly catching up and cutting Lewis off right in the middle of his fall. He boasts that while Louis' skills easily exceed a normal apprentice, they mean absolutely nothing against a high-tier warrior like himself. He strikes the silver-haired boy again, smashing him into the dirt with an explosive impact. But Lewis still refuses to back down. As the dust clears, Lewis is barely clinging to life, his bones shattered from that devastating hit. Even then, the kid spits out that he refuses to die here. Now pay attention, because this is where everything goes south. The man promises that not even a god can save him, preparing a magic attack that makes the boy's eyes widen. He unleashes a powerful spell known as the Celestial Hammer. But Louis won't go down. He must master magic and protect his beloved family. He is ready to pay any price to change his fate. Suddenly, pure rage takes over, pushing him to survive. A sudden burst of raw energy explodes from his fist, blocking the attack and leaving the assassin completely stunned. The clash triggers a massive explosion, leaving Louis coughing while his enemy stands confused. It felt like he was suddenly trading blows with someone of his own rank. Seeing this insane potential, the assassin finally realizes why he was ordered to eliminate the kid. Lewis is a true monster, and he must be taken out right now. Suddenly, a powerful voice echoes, launching a massive surprise strike directly at the assassin. He tries to dodge, but the strike splits into 3 homing attacks. Panic sets in as he struggles to comprehend this technique. A split second later, multiple deadly slashes tear right through him, dealing a devastating blow. Louis can barely process what just happened. The savior is none other than Director Aronian, who instantly ends the battle. You might be wondering, why is the director here? Aronian notices the boy has controlled his inner beast, handing over a glowing magic potion and telling him to drink it right away. The director looks around as the assassin drops dead. He will never tolerate a low-life scum attacking an academy candidate. He demands to know who sent the killer. With a manic laugh, the dying villain sneers that Aronian cannot protect this monster forever, warning him that this is just the beginning of the horror. Suddenly, he self-destructs, painting the entire forest in a horrific shower of blood. Aronian suspects the Assassin Guild is behind this. The killer blew himself to pieces just to keep his mouth shut and protect his master. While the director worries, Lewis notices his wounds healing instantly. This high-grade potion is absolutely insane. Even his shattered bones are completely mended. Realizing this rescue was no accident, Lewis asks why the director keeps on saving his life. But Aronian answers bluntly, stating they should talk about it at Louis's house, catching the boy completely off guard. That is when Louis checks the time, realizing his mother is probably worried sick by now. He sprints off at lightning speed, knowing he is dead meat if he does not make it home soon. The director quickly contacts Kylie to clean up the messy battleground. Meanwhile, over in the city of Mania, a group of angry nobles are harassing Louis's mother over a repaired grinding machine, accusing her of acting high and mighty. They claim she thinks she can do whatever she wants just because she has church backing. They violently grab the poor woman as she desperately explains she is only waiting for her son to return. But one of these absolute human trash bags gives her a creepy, psychopathic stare, claiming she is lying to them and needs to be taught a very painful lesson. Out of nowhere, Lewis's boot smashes right into his face, flying teeth everywhere and knocking both of the thugs to the ground. Laciella is incredibly relieved to see her son back home, safe, but she gasps when she gets a closer look at him. Lewis asks if she is okay, but she completely ignores his question. Instead, she demands to know what happened, staring in horror at his torn clothes and the dried blood covering his skin. But trust me, you and I know he is lying through his teeth just to keep her from panicking. Let's jump back in. Just as the noble recognizes Lewis, he screams that Lewis is always breaking rules, furious that a commoner dared to fight a lord, and decides to report him to George and the High Command immediately. But right then, the director himself steps in, completely shutting down the argument by declaring it a misunderstanding. He introduces himself as Aronian, the head of the prestigious Candria Arcane Academy. The arrogant nobles start shaking the moment they see him floating undeniable proof that he is a powerful grandmaster. Aronian coldly warns these pathetic trash heaps that he will be personally sending his regards to their lord. The two cowards immediately bow before the grandmaster, making it obvious they understand his warning completely. He politely asks if Latiella is Lewis's mother, admitting that while this visit is sudden, they have urgent matters to discuss. Latiella invites him inside to sit down, and Aronian immediately notices the strange automatic mill the nobles complained about. It spins effortlessly without any magic, and looking closely, Aronian feels like he has seen this design before. As Lewis adjusts the machine, Latiella returns, carrying a fresh tray of fruit for their guest. She admits she has no clue how her son invented it, but it made daily chores way easier for her and Julian. Now pay attention, because she immediately asks if the boy caused trouble, since the director himself is in their home. But Director Aronian assures her that Lewis did absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, His performance was utterly mind-blowing, displaying an incredible level of talent that Aronian had only read about in the sacred scriptures of Gaia, dating back to when humanity was enslaved by monsters. During those dark times, a goddess-guided genius rose from among humanity. He mastered the elemental forces and invented martial arts, eventually leading a band of legendary heroes 5 years later to crush the beasts and save humanity from total extinction. The historic day they marked their victory became the starting point of the calendar, celebrated forever as Liberation Day. According to those ancient texts, this savior was known as the first hero. Yahello recognizes the historical name, but Lewis is totally lost since common legends never mentioned a savior. The director explains that the hero looked very different from typical legends, possessing deep black hair and dark eyes, a detail that leaves both Lewis and his mother completely stunned. Aronian reveals that this dark truth is a massive secret hidden by the highest rulers of mankind. While the hero did save the world, a deep madness within his heart drove him to slaughter everyone around him. Because of this unforgivable sin, his entire existence was wiped clean from all official human history. I know what you are thinking, and Lewis feels it too, looking at his hands and wondering if his curse matches this ancient madness. The director notes that this is why, across every single nation, anyone discovered with black hair and black eyes is immediately targeted for execution to prevent another disaster. He then confronts Lewis directly, asking if he really believed cheap hair dye could fool a grandmaster forever. Yahello panics instantly, pleading that she forced her son to dye it, not to scheme, but out of sheer desperation. She was just terrified that the world would execute her boy, desperate to protect her innocent son from harm. As she begs, Lewis quickly steps in to comfort his crying mother, assuring her that everything is under control. He reasons that, if the Grandmaster wanted him dead, they would already be gone, meaning the director has a different motive. Aronian is highly impressed by how incredibly sharp the 13-year-old boy is. Not only is Lewis successfully fighting back his inner rage mode, but Aronian senses the undeniable potential of a future hero within him. As Lewis stares in confusion, Aronian points out that despite the peaceful surface of their world, a terrifying darkness is quietly gathering, and watching Lewis, he realizes the boy's latent power is completely off the charts. That is why the Academy head is willing to personally train him, steering his destiny to save humanity's future. He casually tosses an apple, which Lewis effortlessly catches with absolute confidence and style. He also reveals that because Cain and Fa completely crushed the opposition, almost everyone failed the exam, meaning Lewis officially passed. Welcoming him to the Academy, Aronian asks if the boy is ready to become his direct personal disciple. Lewis realizes the master is taking a huge gamble on him, but asks what Aronian would do if he lost control. Instantly, the Grandmaster's eyes turn deadly cold, and within a microsecond, the fruit in Lewis's hand is sliced clean in half. Aronian chillingly warns that if he ever loses control, he will put him down without hesitation. Cut to the next morning, as a brand new day begins. And trust me, you and I will want to stick around to see what this crazy academy has in store for him next. You and I both know there was a much bigger reason the director visited Lewis's house. A chilling warning had been issued the day before. Meanwhile, his friend was busy counting up all the future expenses he'd have to pay. Lewis secretly wondered what his real link to the legendary hero actually was. He kept remembering how the director saw right through his dyed hair, warning him that if he ever lost control of his powers, the director would end him personally. He had no idea if he could actually trust those terrifying words. Flashback to the day before, right after their chat, when Louis pointed out that the director shouldn't have said all that in front of his mom, since it would worry her. But Aronian argued that keeping her in the dark would only make her a target later. Naturally, Lewis absolutely hated hearing his mother called a liability. Aronian warned him that once his identity got out, his family would be targeted. As his mother, she needed to understand what they were up against. The director's final warning was clear. Lewis had to level up fast, because the real hell was just starting. Deep down, Lewis knew the director was right. He had to gain power, no matter what. Right then, a group of kids ran up to him, calling him Big Brother, and he hugged a sweet little girl named Lana. Little Lana was tearing up, asking if he'd ever come home again because she couldn't stand saying goodbye to him. Lewis gently reassured the sweet girl that he'd be back during every single school break, since this place was his real home. To ease her mind, they locked pinky promises right then. Now watch closely, a messenger arrives, saying a noble's butler is looking for Lewis. Curious, Lewis goes to meet him. The fancy, elegant butler confirms his identity, introducing himself as a servant of the Oranka family, and presents a formal invitation to visit their massive estate in person. It's an invite from Cain, Figuring his new rival just wants to hang out before academy classes start, Lewis accepts without a second thought. The butler politely asks him to step inside the carriage. On their way to Tarsan in the Kandria Empire, the butler brags about how legendary the high-class Oranka family is, explaining that their sheer presence makes the whole city thrive. When Lewis finally spots the colossal mansion, he is totally blown away. Moments later, Kane walks out to welcome him, bringing up their new status as classmates. Lewis mentions the absolutely massive scene Kane caused during the final exam. Knowing he only passed thanks to Kane and Faye, Lewis is totally cool with letting their exam bet slide. But Kane waves that off, saying they can settle that later, insisting Lewis has the skills to pass on his own, especially with Faye's stamp of approval. Even though Lewis already has respect from the elite students and the director, Kane still hasn't had the chance to test his classmate in battle. Since they missed out during the exam, he wants a quick duel before the school term starts. Plus, Kane knows Lewis is dying to find out more about Kandria Academy. As they step inside, you and I are about to meet a seriously angry-looking lady demanding to know what the racket is and who is standing next to Kane. This toxic woman is Kane's mother. Kane tries to introduce Lewis as his friend, but she instantly cuts him off, screaming at her son to shut his mouth. Kane is totally stunned as his mother glares at them, lecturing him about being extremely careful with who he associates with, since the proud gates of the Oranka family aren't open to just any random peasant. In her eyes, a commoner like Lewis isn't worthy of standing beside her son, calling the friendship a complete waste of time. She snaps that Kane should only focus on training, just like his father commanded, to become a legendary sage. Turning her venom on Lewis, she demands to know his angle, accusing him of being a gold-digging opportunist chasing money and high status. She flaunts a flashy ring worth dozens of gold coins, arrogantly claiming she could easily buy someone like Lewis with it. To make her point crystal clear, she tells him to take the jewelry and get lost right now. Kane is mortified by his mother's disgusting behavior and quickly tries to apologize to his friend. But Lewis does something completely unexpected. He grabs the ring, looks her dead in the eye, and says he teamed up with Kane because of actual talent. Then he boldly asks if she honestly values her own son's judgment so little. Kane is absolutely shocked. The mother, now completely furious, screeches for her guards to throw this insolent peasant out. A squad of guards surrounds him. Kane begs his mother to stop, explaining that Lewis is actually a genius who broke academy exam records and even defeated the legendary Faye in battle. But the arrogant woman refuses to believe a peasant could ever outshine wealthy highborn kids, accusing her son of making up lies. As Kane protests, Lewis makes a bold promise, and trust me, you and I are going to love seeing how these two prove her wrong. Alright, you and I are jumping right into some high-stakes drama, where Kane's mother is completely losing her mind at Lewis. Suddenly, the door swings open, and a man claims that keeping Lewis around will actually make Kane way stronger. He demands to know if it is true. This man is the absolute master of this house. Kane's mother immediately tenses up, rushing over to him with frantic energy, arguing that if Kane keeps hanging out with commoners, he will never rise up and surpass his father. But the master walks straight past her, treating her like an annoying insect. Meet William, Kane's cold and distant father. Kane immediately bows in respect, while Lewis politely introduces himself to his best friend's intimidating father. Right away, Lewis feels a monstrous presence radiating off the man, matching the extreme power of the academy director. The father demands answers, and Kane quickly speaks up, admitting that Lewis's skills are actually far superior to his own. He instantly demands proof. This cold patriarch is William Oranka, the legendary head of the family. Now pay attention, because William unleashes a terrifying wave of killing intent that hits Lewis like a savage, biting beast. The air vanishes. Lewis instantly realizes this terrifying man actually wants to end his life. This absurd weight crushes his spirit. It is a soul-shaking force unlike anything the boy has ever experienced before. Still, that is exactly the power of a true grandmaster. But after years of relentlessly hunting dangerous monsters, Lewis has built a solid immunity to raw bloodlust. He can definitely endure this. He unleashes his own hidden energy, throwing William completely off guard as the boy's eyes shift with fierce determination. Their terrifying presence clashes, but the impact rattles Lewis. Kane watches on, terrified for his friend. Lewis falls hard to his knees, and Kane instantly lunges forward to check on him. William confirms his name is indeed Lewis Carroll, demanding to know why he seeks power. Lewis looks him dead in the eye, to protect my family. Turning his back, William coldly tells his son that his resolve is pathetic compared to what Lewis just displayed. Kane's mother is completely horrified by this, calling out to her husband in desperate protest. William fires back with a freezing glare, asking if she dares object. She instantly backs down and accepts it. Taking advantage of the silence, Kane quickly pulls Lewis away to head out to the training grounds. Once they reach the open arena, Kane immediately offers a sincere apology for the absolute chaos that just went down inside. He warns that his parents are extremely difficult. Lewis shrugs it off, though he admits the dad is pretty intense. And honestly, we can both see that these two are basically equals, so there is really nothing to worry about. Kane explains his father only respects raw strength, making praise nearly impossible. In fact, he jokes that Lewis acts more like an Oranka than he does. Lewis realizes that the test was actually William's way of looking out for his son. It was a bizarre form of tough love, leaving Kane deeply reflecting on his friend's surprising perspective. He realizes that ever since he was a small child, he had basically been trapped in this house. His entire existence was reduced to eating, sleeping, and endless training. His father was obsessed with molding him into a legendary grand sage, just like his grandfather. Without even knowing why, Kane just kept swinging his heavy sword, day after day as ordered. Maybe he just wanted a single nod of approval. Instead, this mansion felt like a golden cage. He felt like he needed permission just to draw a breath, while fake praise from servants constantly filled his ears. None of that mattered. His high status and God-given talent felt like heavy iron chains. The tighter they bound him, the more he dreamed of escaping to the outside world. He wanted to wander freely like a bard, soaring across the sky like a bird. But reality is harsh. Might makes right in this world. He knows he is still incredibly weak, but he is not chasing raw power just for the sake of it. Wielding his sword is his only way to shatter those chains. Since William is an alumnus, Kane is determined to enter the academy and grow strong. He wants the freedom to live his own life, and he is fully counting on Lewis to help. Lewis smiles and promises to stand by him. Without another word, they dive straight into training. Watching them from afar, William quietly asks his butler if the background check is finally complete. The butler confirms that Lewis is no ordinary kid. According to their sources, he uses highly advanced combat techniques that nobody has ever witnessed before. He did not just shatter previous records, he also completely dominated Faye in a magic duel. So, what do you and I make of this kid's insane power? Even the academy director fought an entire assassin guild just to keep Lewis safe. Stick with me, we are about to see William realize this new kid is a serious troublemaker. Naturally, his butler questions why on earth he even let Lewis get close to his son. But William explains that danger builds character, and obstacles are only meant to be crushed. That is how people grow. And he believes Louis will push his son to get stronger. Suddenly, Kane readies a technique as Louis dares his friend to unleash every bit of his power. William smiles, realizing his boy actually has a great eye for spotting real, raw talent. Now watch closely. Kane activates a lethal wind thrust skill, charging straight at Louis. The silver-haired prodigy reads it instantly, slipping the attack while aiming a heavy fist right at Kane's face. Lewis calmly notes that while magic acceleration is cool, it makes Kane's trajectory far too linear. Kane is shocked that even with active magic, Lewis counters his moves with zero effort. In that moment, he finally gets why Faye lost to this kid. Then, Lewis turns pensive, asking Kane if he noticed anything off about his family's signature fighting style. Kane is clueless, because these are legendary secret arts passed down through generations of the Oranka family. His own father and grandfather became absolute powerhouses using them. But Lewis insists there is a completely different path, leaving Kane absolutely stunned that his friend is challenging the sacred teachings of his family elders. You and I both know he wants to shock his dad, as Lewis grabs a sword. Watching from the sidelines, William suddenly gets a bad feeling as the two young warriors charge straight forward.